Leopold is a solid red attacker in Black Clover Mobile, and I know not a lot of people summon for him or not a lot of people use him, even if they did get him, because obviously there's better units that have come out. But if you're new to the game, or maybe you just really like the character, or you want to find uses for every character, well, today we're going to talk about the skill upgrade order for him. We're going to talk about what skill cards you should be placing on him to maximize his damage, what gear you want to put on him, whether or not he is actually worth enhancing, what talent you want to do, and then of course what teams he is going to fit on for both PvP and PvE. Now, Leopold's passive grants a 2% increased damage dealt buff upon attacking each enemy afflicted with a burn. That may not sound like a lot, okay, but that 2% can be pretty devastating when you take into account how much damage he's already going to be doing. And he works really well with another burn team, because if another ally burns the enemy first, then whenever you're doing his attacks, you're getting that extra 2% damage, which is going to be nice, okay? And then his Crimson Flame skill 1 is a single target attack, and he attacks after granting a 50% lifesteal. That's not the most amount of lifesteal, especially considering it's on your primary skill, which isn't going to do a lot of damage, because the way lifesteal works is it recovers HP equal to the amount of damage you deal. So like, it's not that great, but it is nice to know that like every turn, if you need just a little bit of health, you can basically choose to heal Leopold by stealing life from the enemy. So it's not terrible, but it's not super great, but you do have a permanent like lifesteal buff up if you want to use it. And then for skill 2, Flame Burst attacks after granting an increased magic attack buff in proportion to current HP, maximum 30%. This is an AoE skill. Now, I don't really like this all that much because your magic attack scales off your HP, and the way you're going to build Leopold is not for HP. You're going to be building him more for magic attack, and since you're not building up your HP, your magic attack is only going to be increased by a little bit and not as much as it potentially could be. And you could absolutely go for an HP build on Leopold just for this particular skill alone if you wanted to do massive AoE damage. But I wouldn't really recommend it because like his base stats on this skill aren't that high, so he's not going to really do that big of damage even if you go for max HP to maximize how much his magic attack gets increased. So ideally you're going to be building up his magic attack and not his HP, meaning this skill is not really all that great for an AoE skill. And then 70% chance to inflict continuous burn damage to an enemy for 2 turns. That's pretty good, having the chance to burn for 2 turns. And then if you have a skill card, you get another chance to burn. We'll talk about what that is when we look at his skill card. And then for his special skill, Spiral Flame, attacks after granting a 60% increased damage dealt buff if an enemy is taking continuous burn damage. That is really good because that is just a guaranteed 60% extra damage you're going to do to an enemy if they're taking a burn. And it's really easy with Leopold to, of course, get a burn because you have his burn on skill 2, and you have an additional burn on skill 2 when you have a skill card, and you can run him with a burn team like Fuegoleon or Fauna. And so, you know, it's really easy to get burns. And then attacks after granting a 75% lifesteal. So this is actually good because he's going to do a lot of damage on a special skill, right? So when you do more damage, you get more lifesteal, obviously. So in one turn, you could potentially kill an enemy and heal yourself back up to full, which makes this his best skill and the skill you want to upgrade first. So in terms of upgrade priority, I would go special skill, secondary skill, primary skill. His combined attack isn't going to be anything that crazy. If an enemy is afflicted with a status element, attacks after granting a 30% increased damage dealt buff. So it's okay, but it's not anything like too crazy. I would do the combo skill last. Now, the reason you aren't going to see Leopold run in PvP all that much is because while he does do the burn damage and he gets extra damage if the enemy's burning, there is a character called Swimsuit Charmy who can nullify continuous damage, and so if she does that, then you just lose out on this 60% increased damage dealt, which is really rough. And then also his speed is not the greatest. He only has like 103 speed. So this is definitely going to be more of a PvE character overall, unless you just have some really nutty like speed up characters that you're running alongside Leopold in PvP. Now, in terms of skill cards, I don't have his skill card, but I do think this is a good option. All attack plus 12%, so that's magic attack or regular attack. And this is a free to play that everybody gets. It's a really good option. I would recommend running this on a lot of people if you don't have their specific skill cards, because this is good. It's just going to give him more damage overall, right? And then as for his skill card here, we have Lion's Energy, and so the passive applies increased all attack proportionate to your own current HP. Once again, I don't really like that much. just because we're not building HP, so it's not that great. There are better skill cards, I feel like, but if you do run his skill card, you get the additional effect of this, which is good. 40% chance to inflict burn on an enemy, dealing continuous damage for 2 turns, okay, in addition to your 50% chance here. So that's actually like really good to have this skill card. It's actually, why does it say 50? It should be 70. I think it's 70%. It was 70%, right? Why is it saying 50? Yeah, 70%. I don't know. Something's off right there. Maybe it's just 70% total now. No, that doesn't even add up. So I don't know what's going on there with that. It should be 70% chance to burn plus another 40% though, which overall is good. So you have 2 chances to proc burn, which makes his this skill card actually really good for him for that reason. However, the passive you could kind of skip on. So in terms of passives, what could be good for him? Well, I believe this one is going to be really good for him. Respectable Rival. It's with Fuegoleon. His brother actually has a way better skill card. Applies 12 to 24% increased damage to yourself when HP is 50% or higher. And since Leopold is a lifesteal character, right, he should be able to stay above 50% damage or health. And that's going to allow him to get that extra damage all the time, which is really, really nice. So this is probably like one of the better skill cards you could put on Leopold. Another option you could do, this one is just going down the dumb HP route. If you did want to build him with HP, applies 10 to 20% max HP. So you would build like full HP on him. You would apply this max HP buff, and then you would just kind of go crazy with your skill 2, ideally, because your skill 2 is going to buff your magic attack based on your HP, but it's a maximum of 30%. They even limit it, so it's not that great. I wouldn't recommend going down that route, but it is something you could do. Okay, and then in terms of gear, what can you put on him? I would recommend like attack gear and then also penetration gear. I wouldn't really recommend like crit gear because he has a base crit rate of 15%, which isn't great. And you could put crit rate gear on him, but at that point, is it really worth it? Because then you do crit rate and crit gear, and then now you don't have the extra attack. So I just go like straight attack gear on him. So I have an attack set, 2 pieces of the Ancient Mage's Relic set on him, which gives him plus 220 attack and plus 220 magic attack. I also have 2 pieces of the Ominous Gear set, which are going to give him attack plus 7% and magic attack plus 7%. And then for the penetration, I have 2 pieces of the Nature's Wonder set, which is going to give him penetration plus 7%. Okay, in terms of the base stat that you want to go for here, you want to go for magic attack. I do have some attack here because I didn't have enough magic attack pieces of gear, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't use Leopold that much, so I'm not gonna waste LR gears on him if I don't have them to spare. I'm gonna put my best LR gears on characters like the new Noelle and Julius, right? So here I've just kind of put together what I had left over from URs and LRs and SSRs. But here is magic attack. You can see for the main stat, this one does have attack. Ideally, that should be magic attack. I just don't have a bag with magic attack on it right now to spare. Magic attack. This one should be magic attack. It is attack right now. And then the rest of these are all magic attack, right? So ideally, all of these are going to be magic attack to maximize Leopold's damage. So that's kind of what you want to go for on gear. Magic attack and then attack sets with a penetration set is probably going to give him the most amount of damage and give him the most use that he can do in game for both PvE and PvP. And then let's talk about his enhancement level. So should you guys be enhancing him? Well, at enhancement level 2, he gets an additional 5% damage, which is, you know, good. Going to help him do more damage as an attacker. And then at enhancement level 5, he gets 10% damage, right? He gets a little bit more accuracy, a little bit more penetration, but like overall, definitely not worth it to enhance this character. I would almost even trade in his pieces in the shop for another character's pieces, because the extra 10% damage dealt, like I can get that elsewhere from skill cards and stuff like that. It's just not that big of a deal to me. So I don't think he's really worth enhancing. And as far as penetration goes, you can run a penetration set on him and then boom. So like, yeah, don't worry about enhancing him. If you have a copy of him, that is more than enough. If you want to use any duplicates that you pull on him, go ahead, but don't waste versatile mage pieces for sure. It's definitely not worth it. And then as for talents on him, you're just going to want to go for the basic talents. You're going to want attack plus 7% and damage dealt up. Those are going to give him his maximum damage. And then defense wise, you want 20% defense, and you also want the defense plus 4% and crit plus 2% stacking up to 5 times at the start of each wave. And then for support, his special skill is the best, right? So you're going to want Swiftness to grant a SP plus 1 buff upon having less than 2 SPs at the start of a turn. You could also go the route of Mage's Blessing to get your AoE attack back a little bit more often, which is potentially okay on this character. And then you could also go for damage resist. You want the damage resist no matter what, just to give him more survivability. But if I were to give you advice out of Swiftness and Mage's Blessing, I would probably go for Swiftness over Mage's Blessing on this character, because like I said, his special skill is just going to be better for damage and helping your team out the most. Now, in terms of teams that you can put Leopold on, let's take a look at those. So this would be a PvE team, definitely. Absolutely not a PvP team, okay? The idea behind this is you got burn, 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 and continuous healing. You got lifesteal, and I don't think oh man, I can never say his name right. Fuegolion has lifesteal, but he does have a large amount of attack, right? And so you have these two lifesteal and you have continuous healing. It works pretty well for a PvE team, just doing the continuous burn damage and getting the extra damage up. He gets damage up, he gets damage up from characters burning, right? So it works pretty dang well running those characters together for a PvE concept. Now, like I was saying before, Leopold does not have the most speed, so it's almost like a prerequisite. If you're going to try running Leopold in PvP, you're going to need like Valtos. You're going to then have Leopold. You're probably actually almost going to want to do something like really dumb like this just to make him more viable, like add Finral in as well. Okay, and then besides that, oh man, I don't even know what else. You could probably run. You could probably, well, like it's rough because you want a healer too. So, actually, let's get rid of Finral, and let's say you're gonna do a healer, right? So ideally, you're gonna go for like, actually no, the best healer for this comp, I'm thinking, probably Kahono. Probably Kahono. This is a solid option for a team right here. So the idea behind this team is you're going to have Valtos go. So this is so you can get past the current barrier meta, right? And then you're going to have Leopold and Fuegolion, and they're both going to be able to attack. And now, even if they do not kill the enemy, let's say we use Leopold first to apply the AoE burn, and then we use Fuegolion special to do a massive amount of damage, right? When you use these two together, even if they don't kill the enemy is going to be burning. And so even if they put barriers up, they're still going to be burning. It burns their health, not the barriers, right? And so you have potential to kill people even if they get the chance to put their barriers up by running these two with Valtos. And then the idea behind running Kahono here as opposed to like Charmy or as opposed to Mimosa or other healers is Kahono does defense up as well as give barriers as well as heal. Like she has a lot of utility. So this is actually a pretty decent team PvP wise. Outside of this, I mean, you could always just switch out Fuegolion for like other characters that are going to do damage. You could also run something like this, where you have Noel as for barriers, you have Kahono for barriers, you have Valtos for speed, you have Leopold as your main attacker. There's an option you could run. There's lots of different things you could do. But that first team, I think, would be a kind of cool, fun, non-meta team to try and run in PvP. And just keep in mind, the character himself is not meta, so he's not going to be super meta in PvP. And these builds aren't always going to work out against every single team. It will probably work against a couple of them, but not everyone. But hopefully that gives you guys some ideas. And if you guys enjoyed the video, please consider going down there, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and thank you guys so much for watching.